the other hand, you probably have some plans for retirement. So maybe that's the important subject for the day. Either way, you're going to find out about it here. In fact, we're going to talk about how $1 million is an important number for you to remember for retirement. But first, as they say, let's talk about real estate once again. What's the latest news as of today? Home prices are heating up after a long slide. And in many cases, they didn't actually slide, they just kind of leveled off. But as of July 25th, right, that's today, they're saying that home prices are heating up. Do you think they needed to be heated up? I'm sure you have an opinion about whether or not you saw a slide. Are you expecting them to go up or going down? The 20 U.S. Largest U.S. metropolitan areas were 1.7 lower in May from a year ago, but now the monthly data tells a different story, going back up. Why is this? And the question is, what needs to happen to fix the market? Well, is it broken? If they're heating up, is it broken? Well, I don't think the heating up is the problem. I think the heating up is the symptom of what's broken. What's broken is there are no houses to buy. It's not necessarily the price, believe it or not. If you think that the housing market is priced too high, well, it may be. On the other hand, everybody's used to it. Everybody's buying houses that are available at the current levels. Whether you think it's too high or not, there are buyers out there that are paying these prices. So what has to be fixed? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need to get fixed. But let's just play along. What are their suggestions for fixing it? Well, it all comes down to two things. New homes, building new homes. Have a decade of solid population growth and not enough new homes. Broken record. We've been talking about it for years. Builders are responding, but it will take more than a few months worth of new supply. Way more than a few months. It'll take many years of supply. You got to remember, every house the builders are making isn't just to take care of the backlog. Some of it is taking care of current needs. Construction figures show that home builders are eager to fill the inventory with new homes. On the other hand, they're saying you have to build rentals. So the first two things that they're saying are build new houses and build rental property. Either way, it's construction. Construction isn't a flip a switch and it goes. It takes time. What's the third thing? Well, end Fed rate hikes, meaning that they want the interest rates not to go up anymore. Climbing rates push mortgage demand to lowest point in a month. Well, part of that is the reason it's lower mortgage demand, but part of it's because there's no houses to buy. Is that going to happen? Well, as we talked about yesterday, they are indicating they're going to raise rates again. So the interest rate thing might be a no-brainer, but it may not happen. Building houses is. Where are all the houses? Well, look at this chart. Here are interest rates going back to 2011, more than a decade ago. And you can see they're always between 3.5 and 5, 3.5 and 5, 3.5 and 5, up until basically about a year ago. When was it? When did it cross 5? Let's take a look. It crossed 5 a little less than a year ago, right? 3.5 and 5. So you got to remember, everybody that bought a house in this last 10 years or refinanced the house in the last 10 years has a rate that is under 5, probably under 4. Most of the time, it's under 4, if you think about it. So if you have every house that was bought in the last 10 years and refinanced here in 2020, 21, with a mortgage rate on their property at 4% or less, that's where all your inventory is. These people are not selling houses, right? Because if you go up in rate, it's going to cost you money. How much does it cost? Well, how much does a 1% difference affect your mortgage rate? Well, this is kind of a stupid question because the 1% affects your mortgage rate exactly 1%, right? It's not rate that they meant, it meant the cost. How much does that cost? It costs about $100 a month and $38,000 over 30 years. But that's also misleading because they're figuring that that's on a $200,000 house with a $40,000 down payment. So you're financing $160,000, right? That's not realistic. There are no $200,000 houses, very few, and mortgages are not 160. So let's say you double that. Let's say you have a $400,000 house and a 320 mortgage. That's going to cost you close to $80,000 for 1%. So somebody going from over here, let's say 4% up to 6, that's 2 percentage points. So instead of 80 grand, it's 160,000. Do you think that any of these people here from 2011 to 2021 are going to want to spend 160,000 just to sell their house? Doesn't matter how much you sell it for, it's still going to take 160 right off the bat from having to pay more on a mortgage rate. So that's where all your inventory is. Sure, you can fix it with the suggestion of building more houses, new homes. Sure, but how many are you going to build? Right? So let's jump into retirement. This is important. This is where the $1 million number comes in. A growing number, make it a little narrower so you can see it better. A growing number of America's workers are now working past 75, and not just because they're falling short on savings. It's because working is not a viable solution to the retirement crisis. Here's where the numbers come in. The average retiree spends $4,345 on monthly expenses. Doesn't matter what you spend it on, that's monthly expenses. So how does that pencil out? Let's say that you saved up $1 million for retirement. Put $1 million into our favorite calculator. Is that $1 million? Yeah, that's $1 million. And you're going to be retired for 20 years. So take whatever year you're going to retire, subtract it from what year you think you're going to die. That's how many years you need the money for. So let's say if you are 75 and you think you're going to live to 95, or you're 65, you think you're going to live to 85, whatever. So let's just say 20 years. You divide that by 20 years, that gives you 50,000 a year. Divide that by 12 months. That's 4,166. Well, that's less than the 4,300 on monthly expenses. So even somebody who had $1 million saved up is still short on expenses. That doesn't take into account income tax. If any of this money is taxable, it doesn't take into account inflation, doesn't take into account any capital improvements to your life. It's just your monthly expenses. And that's right now. So if you have $1 million saved up and you want to retire for 20 years, that's going to give you $4,166 each month. And right now it costs $4,300 to be retired. So you're already $200 short, not counting any inflation over the coming years. I'm sure you have an opinion about that. Why don't you let us know what it is in the comments? Real estate and retirement are two big things. Now, how are they related? Well, if you own a home with no mortgage on it, that's less of a monthly expense you have. So whatever age you are now, if you want to pay off a 30-year mortgage in 30 years, add 30 years to your current age. Is that before or after you want to retire? If you are 45 years old and you buy a house today with a 30-year mortgage, you will pay your last payment when you're 75. Do you want to retire before that? Because that's going to be in your monthly expenses. If you're 35 years old today and you buy a house today with a 30-year mortgage, you will pay your last payment when you're 65. Do you want to retire before or after that? Now, certainly you may pay it off early. Maybe you'll get a windfall. Maybe you'll save up money, but just do the math on the years for your retirement, for your house, your interest rate on your mortgage, and see where that puts you for your retirement plans.